Do you think you're safe on the internet? What if a company with bad purposes possesses all your information? Bank information, social security number, personal information, and all the stuff you don't want the internet to know. Here on DGB Services, we focus on keeping your information safe. Ranked as the safest internet related.
Don't listen to their lies. It's all fake. Join us and let us show the truth to the world. Welcome to the year 3020. You're located in New Donk City, ruled by a company called Days Gone By, also known as DGB. It has been known that they mass-produced this drug called mech. This is Days Gone By's best-selling drug and is produced by the Russians. The drug has spread like wildfire throughout the city and has become the most used drug on the market. What mech does to the human body is that it enhances the human capabilities, creating a superhuman. The drug was originally used only for Russian military, but it leaked out and has been labeled as illegal because of secondary effects that it would have on the human body. People who have taken the drug have never been seen after actually taking the drug, so with much suspicion under the drug, it is hard to obtain it, but with the right dealers, you could obtain mech. New Donk City is the most technologically advanced city in the world. In this city, you will be faced with many obstacles involving the citizens, society, and the environment. We want an interaction between the player and the NPCs to be a unique experience. That's why we created each interactable character with different problems. Each character has their own unique personality that makes them different from any other AI out there, so you wouldn't meet two of the same character. With New Donk City society, over time you will see that there are problems you could either face or ignore. If you choose to ignore, you will be faced with changes in the game on how it feels. Things will start to get more chaotic, and cliques will form, making the problems harder to fix the more you choose to ignore them. We are making New Donk City constantly change as you play the game over time with seasons, buildings, and people, so that it could immerse the players even further. With the environment, we wanted to have changes be made constantly, so over time we added things like fog, color palettes according to the location, and lighting according to seasons in the game. As time passes throughout the city, new buildings and old ones will be formed according to your choices in the game, constantly shifting the way New Donk City will be formed. The player will play as an undercover cop who is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and cancer. You are at the end of your line and seem to have nothing left to live for, so you decide to get your hands on mech. You know that the drug is illegal, but it's the only thing helping you with your symptoms, so you decide to keep it a secret from everyone around you. In order to obtain the drug, you decide to infiltrate into Days Gone By as an undercover cop. A few months have passed working for DGB, and you have gained their trust. You meet a man, a mysterious man, that comes up to you and asks if you would like to become part of an experiment. You find out that this experiment involves mech. The mysterious man asks if you would like to participate, and you accept his offer. A week later, after taking mech, you start to feel better, stronger, and faster, and even smarter. Life seems to be great until you start seeing the truth behind mech. This is when the player realizes that mech truly was and why it has been labeled illegal. You discover that your body is changing in many ways that you are not even familiar with. Every day you wake up, you realize you're not feeling like yourself and slowly start losing control of your body. You realize then that you're becoming a robot and your body is being consumed by electrical parts. Your mind is being taken over by mech, and you start to hear voices in your head that cause you to start fading away from your humanity. You realize what is happening to you, but you question if you should keep on taking the drug because of how it enhances you. Here, you gain new abilities, and this is where the game will show you the mechanics of mech and how it is added into the game. The player will be walking out of your house into New Donk City, where you first get a feel of the controls. You are playing a third-person perspective, and you have the option to go into a first person to observe in more detail of things. New Donk City is an open world map where you can explore many areas of the map without interfering with the main story. Days Gone By realizes the effects of the drugs have taken on you, and they want to take you in for further investigation. Hoping they could fix the effects, they instead do more experiments on you and try to make you lose the rest of your humanity. With your first objective, you have to escape the facility and fight your way through the enemies that have already been transformed by mech. This is when you realize the organization is corrupt and trying to build an army of mechs and take over New Donk City. One of the unique mechanics we came up with is fighting mech for the control of the player's body throughout the story. The character tends to be manipulated by the drug, and this affects the player's decisions. For example, the player meets a particular scene that needs to choose whether they save a stray dog or not, based on the character's current mental state, controlled by mech or normal control. The player might have to obey what the mech chooses to do. Our next mechanic is a puzzle solving mechanic where the player goes into a first person perspective. The player has to investigate a certain area of the game to gain access on certain information about the current mission, looking for clues, objects, notes, and hacking devices. An interesting feature of this mechanic is that the protagonist's mind is connected to the internet, so the player could gain more clues by doing a quick research of the gained intel online in-game browser. An optional feature of this mechanic is playing it on VR. If a VR headset is connected to the device, the game will give the player the option to complete the investigation process on VR. We provided 3 separate skill trees for the players to use. One for combat aspect of the game. This one enhances the mechanic capabilities of the player and is upgraded by making use of the drug mech in-game. Each time the player upgrades his mechanical skill tree, the game becomes easier, but the protagonist loses humanity, which leads to the player to a nice ending of the game. The second skill tree is for the humanity of the protagonist. Enhancing this tree makes the player have to go less through the mech versus protagonist mechanic, gives the player more freedom by giving more options when interacting with NPCs and unlocking different secondary missions. The third tree just makes the help investigation process quicker. Based on that, our game is a hack and slash open world game. Our fighting mechanics are similar to other hack and slash games. We have a normal attack, a heavy attack, dodging, a parry mechanic, blocking mechanic, which only works for light attacks, a grabbing mechanic where the player can grab certain objects like cars, containers, or enemies and throw them into inflicting damage or collision. The only weapon the protagonist uses is his or her fists through the entirety of the game. The player can also unlock 4 ultimate attacks that are charged up by completing combos. There is a UI element which looks like a bar that informs the player how close they are getting to the ultimate attack. The first ultimate attack is called Explosive Fist. It allows the player to shoot their arms, which explode after 4 seconds, like a grenade launcher. The second one is called Gravity, and performs something that looks like an airstrike. It launches the player to the air, and when the player lands, it inflicts damage to enemies close to the player. The third one is called EMP Grenade. This one gives an EMP grenade to the player. If it explodes and hits the enemy will become an ally until it is defeated. It only works with basic enemies. Special enemies will only receive damage. The fourth one is called Rampage, and it is a speed and damage boost. We are aiming for a T rating for this game, so the enemies will be all robots. The player doesn't fight any humans in the game except for some bosses. We have basic robot enemies, the speed droids, heavy robots, the flying drones, and mechs. To immerse the players into this futuristic world, we have a soundtrack that matches the atmosphere of the game. Having some rock hits when the player is kicking robotic butts, we are going to have some synthwave and dance electronic tracks when the player is on New Donk City. We want to immerse the players into the experience as deep as possible. We, as a team, think sci-fi is the perfect genre for this. New Donk City being the most technologically advanced city in the world, we are going to have the lighting and color palettes similar to Times Square, New York, for both daytime and nighttime, a lot of neon signs and shiny screens. The art style will be bright and have neon in the city, while the outskirts of the town will have a dull coloring. We are not going to have any driving mechanics, but we need cars in the city. We might have some flying cars or vehicles, and normal regular cars as well. The characters will be wearing futuristic clothes, and we are going to have futuristic devices just as props for more immersion. We are also giving our players the freedom to be able to do what they want to, making it an open world so the player wouldn't feel restricted with multiple transitions between levels. For our characters and NPCs, we will be using face motion capture to capture their emotions and their expressions. We decided to release our game on PC and all next-gen consoles that include Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. With the VR, it also supports the HTC Vive and all Oculus Rift devices. So throughout this, the player will be faced with the tough decision of trusting mech, of either turning in their humanity or suffering from the cruel world of not having it in their life. Will things turn out okay? Will you make it through? Is mech really such a bad thing? or is DGB really your enemy? Only your mind can guide you. Will it fail you or lead you to a brighter path?